Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes the biggest secrets are hidden in the smallest details. Today, we're going to see how one single surprising Greek word completely changes how we understand the Christmas story. Look, we all know the Christmas story, right? Or at least we think we do. But there's this weird little puzzle hiding right there in plain sight. An angel tells Joseph that what's in Mary is begotten by the Holy Spirit. But wait a minute. Why use a word that literally means to father for a virgin birth? It doesn't quite fit, does it? And here it is, right in Matthew 1:20. That word, begotten. In the original Greek, this isn't some generic term. It is super specific. And you've got to believe, Matthew's choice here was no accident. It's actually the very key that unlocks everything he wants to tell us about who Jesus is. All right, so let's dig into this. We're going to have to unpack this linguistic mystery, and that means we need to look closer at the central clue. So the word is genao, and in Greek, this is not a vague giving birth kind of word. No, it's almost exclusively used to describe what a father does. He begets a child. You see it all over the genealogies that Matthew himself writes. It's all about the active role of the dad, not the mom. And this is what's so wild. I mean, there was a perfectly good, totally normal Greek word for a mother conceiving, silambano. That's what you'd expect to see here, right? But Matthew walks right past it. He deliberately picks the fathering word, genao, and he points it right at the Holy Spirit. That's a huge move. Yeah, this was no mistake. It's not a typo. By picking this very specific, kind of jarring word, Matthew is basically waving a giant flag for his readers. He's forcing them to stop and ask, okay, what's really going on here? What are you trying to tell us about who this child is? And the answer, as is so often the case with Matthew, is found by looking back. We have to go to the Old Testament. Now, this idea of God begetting anyone is super rare in the Hebrew Bible, but the few times it does show up, it's unbelievably powerful. In fact, when you scan the entire Hebrew Bible, you find this concept is consistently tied to just 3 specific identities. Only 3. Okay, so who are they? First, you've got the entire nation of Israel. God is described as the father who begot them as his special people. Second, there's the king, the heir of David. In Psalm 2, he's explicitly called God's begotten son, his royal ruler on earth. And third, and this one is fascinating, you have divine wisdom itself, personified as being begotten by God before creation even began. So, Israel, the king, and wisdom. How does this all tie back to Jesus? Well, here's the brilliant part. Matthew isn't just picking one of these ideas. No, he's a master weaver. He's taking all 3 of these powerful threads and showing how they all come together perfectly in the person of Jesus. So this is Matthew's whole argument, right here. He's saying Jesus is the true Israel, the one who will get it right where the nation failed. He's the true king, the long-awaited royal son. And he's the embodiment of true wisdom, God's creative power at work in the world. He's the ultimate son, wrapping up all 3 of these begotten roles into one person. You see? The big reveal here is that this one little word, genanao, it's not just about biology. It's not just a fancy way of saying virgin birth. It's a huge, radical claim about Jesus' very identity and his entire mission. Essentially, Matthew is screaming from the rooftops that the one who fathers Jesus is God the Father, acting through the Holy Spirit. This is way more than just a miracle. It's a statement of origin. It establishes that Jesus comes directly from God, making him God's son in a way that is totally unique, totally one of a kind. And right away, this incredible identity gets linked to his mission. The angel says you're going to name him Jesus, which literally means God saves, because, get this, he will save his people from their sins. But hold on, what did that phrase, save his people from their sins, actually mean to a first-century Jew? It wasn't just about, feeling bad for lying. Sin was the very thing that led to Israel's exile, their idolatry, their broken relationship with God. So Jesus' mission was seen as a massive spiritual rescue operation, a conquest to heal that broken covenant and bring God's people back home for good. And this whole idea, this method of showing Jesus as the do-over for Israel's story, it's not a one-time thing. This is Matthew's MO. It's a pattern he uses all through his gospel. Here's a classic example.
Matthew grabs a quote from the prophet Hosea that says, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Now, in Hosea, that's talking about the nation of Israel during the Exodus. But Matthew applies it directly to baby Jesus coming back from Egypt. Why would he do that? He's drawing a parallel. He's showing that Jesus is reliving Israel's story. But this time, where the first son, Israel, stumbled and failed in the wilderness, Jesus, the true son, is going to succeed.
So, what if the biggest truths aren't in the loud, obvious statements? What if they're hidden in the careful choice of a single perfect word? Next time you read the Christmas story, listen for that word, begotten. It's this quiet little clue that unlocks a universe of meaning, and it reminds us that sometimes, if you look closely enough, one word can really change the whole picture.